The conference room fell silent as the transmission ended. Ambassador lay on the floor, blood spreading across her white uniform. 3 other humans were dead. The soldiers who attacked them had already fled into the massive alien station. Captain stood at the airlock of his transport ship, watching the station through the viewport. His soldiers waited behind him, checking their weapons and armor. They had been in space for 6 months, protecting the colony ships. Now they had a new mission. "3rd Battalion, listen up," said into his radio. "The ambassador is hurt. Our people are trapped in that station. The aliens think they can attack humans and walk away. Let's show them they're wrong." 200 soldiers moved through the airlock. They wore dark armor that covered them from head to toe. Each soldier carried a rifle, spare ammunition, grenades, and a knife. Their helmets had screens that let them see in the dark. They were waiting. High Magistrate had sent 3,000 soldiers to defend the station. They were tall, with hard shells covering their bodies like insects. They had 4 arms and could move very fast. Watched from his command center as the humans entered the station. 3,000 against 200, said to his officers. This will be over quickly. He was right, but not in the way he expected. The humans moved into the dark corridors. They had cut the power, thinking darkness would stop them. Private Sora walked point, her rifle raised. Through her helmet display, she saw everything in green light. The darkness meant nothing to her. "Contact front," she whispered into her radio. 50 soldiers rushed around the corner. They fired energy weapons that lit up the hallway. Sora dropped to one knee and fired 3 times. 3 fell. The soldiers behind her opened fire. The noise was incredible. Human weapons used bullets, not energy. They were loud and violent. They had never heard anything like it. The sound alone made them panic. 20 died in the first 10 seconds. The rest ran. "Push forward," ordered. The humans did something they couldn't understand. They split into small teams. Each team moved differently, covering different areas. When one team advanced, another team protected them. They talked constantly on their radios, sharing information. They fought as individuals. Each soldier tried to be brave alone. The humans fought as one creature with 200 bodies. In the command center, watched his soldiers die. "What are they doing?" he asked. "Why can't we stop them?" His tactical officer studied the screens. "They see in the dark. Their armor stops our weapons. They move together like nothing we've ever seen." "Send more soldiers," ordered. More poured into the corridors. 800 soldiers now faced the humans. The thought numbers would win. They rushed forward in waves. Sora stood in a narrow corridor with 5 other soldiers. 40 charged at them. She fired her rifle until it was empty, then pulled out her pistol. Beside her, a soldier threw a grenade. The explosion was deafening. "Reloading," Sora shouted. Another soldier stepped forward to cover her while she put a new magazine in her rifle. It took 3 seconds. Then she was firing again. They couldn't understand it. When their weapons ran out of energy, they needed 10 minutes to recharge. Humans just put in new bullets and kept fighting, and the humans never seemed to get tired. Hours passed. They kept attacking. The humans kept killing them. Captain led a team to the medical bay where the wounded humans waited. They found 50 soldiers guarding the door. Said quietly. A soldier threw a grenade that exploded with bright light and loud noise. They couldn't see or hear. The humans rushed in, firing precisely. In 30 seconds, all 50 were down. Only 2 were dead. The humans had aimed to wound, not kill, when they could. Found Ambassador being treated by a human medic who had been captured. "You came," said weakly. Always replied, "Can you walk?" "With help." "Then let's go home." But getting out was harder than getting in. Had gathered all his soldiers between the humans and their ship. 1,000 warriors blocked the main corridor. "We can't fight through that," one of his officers said. Smiled, "We don't have to fight them, we just have to scare them." He gave orders. His soldiers spread through the station. They set up speakers. They hacked into the station's communication system. Then they played sounds. The herd screaming. They heard explosions. They heard human voices laughing and shouting. The sounds came from everywhere. They couldn't tell where the humans actually were. 3 teams of humans attacked from different directions at once. They used grenades and covered the corridors with smoke. They panicked. They fired at shadows. They shot each other by accident. Sora's team moved through the chaos. She had been fighting for 6 hours without rest. Her legs hurt. Her arms were tired, but she kept moving. Humans were very good at not stopping. A soldier jumped at her from the side. He was bigger and stronger. He knocked her rifle away and grabbed her with his 4 arms. Sora pulled her knife and stabbed him twice. They let go. Sora picked up her rifle and kept moving. The humans reached their ship. All the wounded were safe. They had rescued everyone. Captain did a count. They had lost 12 soldiers. They had lost over 700. As the human ship pulled away from the station, stood in his destroyed command center. Bodies lay everywhere. His soldiers were crying or sitting in shock. In 14 hours, 200 humans had torn through his defenses like they weren't there. "Get me all the recordings," said quietly. "Every camera, every sensor. I need to understand what happened." For 3 days, watched the recordings. He studied how the humans moved, how they fought, how they communicated. He noted that they could see in darkness, that their armor was very strong, that they healed faster than any species he knew. When they were wounded, their medics kept them fighting. When they were tired, they kept going anyway. But what scared him most was something simple. The humans had been laughing. Even while fighting, even while wounded, they joked with each other on the radio. They treated combat like it was a game they played for fun. Called a meeting with the other coalition leaders. He showed them the recordings. "We attacked their diplomats," said, "so they sent soldiers to rescue them. These were ordinary human infantry, regular troops. They weren't even their warriors." "If those are their ordinary soldiers," another leader asked, "what are their actual warriors like?" Nobody had an answer, but across the galaxy word spread quickly. Humanity had arrived, and humans were very, very good at war. In his quarters, Captain cleaned his rifle and wrote his report. Tomorrow they would continue protecting the colony ships. It had been a normal day for the 3rd Battalion. They had done their job, nothing special. Private Sora sat with her team, eating and laughing about the battle. Someone asked if she was scared when they grabbed her. She shrugged. "Not really," she said. "I knew you guys would help if I needed it. That's what we do." That was the secret the aliens didn't understand yet. Humans never fought alone. Even when they were alone, they knew others were coming. That made them fearless. That made them dangerous. And those were just the regular infantry. The elite operators hadn't even been called yet. Emperor was not afraid of humans. The Empire had conquered 40 species over 300 years. They were strong, aggressive, and proud. When heard that humans had defeated he laughed. "They are weak insects," he told War Master. "We are warriors. These humans bleed like everyone else." Was more careful. He had studied the reports. "My Emperor, the humans fight differently than anyone we've faced. Perhaps we should negotiate." "Negotiate?" Slammed his fist on the table. "The Empire does not negotiate with prey. We will crush them and take their worlds. Send the invasion fleet." 3 months after the incident at the station, 300,000 soldiers attacked 3 human colonies. They came with massive warships and heavy weapons. Intelligence reports said the human colonies had weak defenses. It would be easy. New Colony was a farming world. 80,000 humans lived there, growing food for the other colonies. When they arrived, they sent 85,000 soldiers to take the planet. Lieutenant stood on a hill overlooking the landing zone. She commanded 3,000 human soldiers. They were landing in the valley below, thousands of them. Her radio officer looked nervous. "Lieutenant, they outnumber us 30-1, he said. Smiled. "Then it's a fair fight. Tell all teams to move to their positions." They were 2.5 meters tall. They had thick skin like armor and powerful muscles. Each one could lift 3 times what a human could. They carried heavy weapons that could destroy walls. They marched forward in straight lines, confident and loud. They never saw the first attack coming. Human soldiers had hidden in the forest. They wore camouflage that made them almost invisible. They had buried mines along the paths. They had set up machine guns in concealed positions. When the march passed, gave one word over the radio. Now! The forest exploded with gunfire. Mines detonated under feet. Machine guns fired from 3 directions at once. 200 died in the first minute. The rest scattered, trying to find cover. But there was no cover. The humans had cleared certain areas and left others thick with trees. Every place they ran, human guns were already aimed there. It was like fighting ghosts. The commander called for artillery support. Big guns on his ships began firing at the forest. Trees exploded. The ground shook. Surely the humans would die. But the humans had already moved. By the time the artillery hit, they were a kilometer away, setting up new ambushes. The spent ammunition destroying empty forests while humans attacked their supply lines from behind. This continued for days. They had more soldiers, better weapons, and stronger bodies. But humans had better tactics. Every time they figured out where the humans were, the humans had already gone somewhere else. Night was the worst. Could see well enough, but humans owned the darkness. They attacked at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning. They never got to sleep. When they did sleep, they woke up to find their guards dead and their supplies burning. Walked into the captured command post with 12 soldiers. They had killed the guards silently with knives. Inside, 50 officers were studying maps. They looked up in shock. Said in perfect language, "I'm going to blow up your artillery in 5 minutes. You should probably evacuate." She placed a device on the table and walked out. They rushed out of the building. The bomb didn't explode, but while they were running away, human teams destroyed 3 actual artillery positions 2 kilometers away. Had lied about which target she would hit. When they ran back to their command post, it was empty. Humans had stolen all their maps and communication equipment. War Master received hourly reports. His 300,000 soldiers were fighting 50,000 humans across 3 planets. After 2 weeks, he had lost 30,000 soldiers. The humans had lost 800. "How is this possible?" demanded. "They don't fight fair," said. "They use tricks, they attack when we rest, they hide like cowards. Then find them and kill them." But it wasn't that simple. On Nu, they tried a major assault. They sent 20,000 soldiers to destroy the human base. They marched in formation with air support and heavy tanks. The humans let them come. Had her soldiers dig tunnels under the approach routes. When the army was in position, the humans collapsed the tunnels. 5,000 fell into pits filled with stakes. Tanks fell into holes and couldn't get out. While they tried to rescue their trapped soldiers, humans attacked from the sides and back. They used rockets to destroy the tanks. They shot down the aircraft with missiles. In 3 hours, they lost 8,000 soldiers, lost 40. One of those 40 was a soldier named. He took 3 bullets protecting his squad. The human medics rushed to him immediately. They worked on him while fighting continued around them. They stopped the bleeding, repaired the damage, gave him medicine. 6 hours later was back in the fight. His armor was damaged, but he refused to leave. They couldn't understand it. When they were wounded, they died or went home. When humans were wounded, their medics performed miracles. The humans just didn't stay dead. Intercepted human radio communications. He wanted to understand how they fought so well. What he heard confused him. "Nice shot, that's 20 for you." "Yeah, but has 23. I need to catch up." They were keeping score. They were competing to see who could kill more enemies. They were having fun. Another recording was worse. A human soldier was badly wounded. His friends were carrying him to safety while under fire. The wounded soldier was laughing. "This is just like training, except the bullets are real," he said. "Don't die on us," another soldier replied. "You still owe me money." "I'm not dying today, I'm too stubborn." And he didn't die, the medics saved him. Realized something terrible. These humans enjoyed fighting. They trained for it their whole lives. War wasn't something they feared. It was something they were good at. After 6 weeks, they were losing. They had come with 300,000 soldiers. Now they had 210,000. The humans had started with 50,000. Now they had 47,000. The numbers didn't make sense. General Minu commanded all human forces in the sector. He visited Nu to congratulate on her defense. She stood in a captured bunker, looking tired but satisfied. "You've done excellent work, Lieutenant," Minu said. "Thank you, sir. The troops performed well. I'm promoting you to captain. You'll train the next generation of officers." Smiled. "Does this mean the war is over?" "For the regular fighting, yes. They are retreating, but our intelligence says they're planning something bigger. They might attack New Seoul. Our capital, they wouldn't dare. They're desperate. Desperate enemies are dangerous." Minu was right. Emperor had called together every warrior. 500,000 soldiers, the Imperial Guard, the best warriors in the Empire. They would attack New Seoul and destroy humanity's government. Tried one more time to change the Emperor's mind. "My lord, we lost to their regular soldiers. Their infantry. What if they have better troops?" Grabbed by the throat. "There are no better troops. We are sending our elite warriors. We will crush them." Barely escaped with his life. He prepared the invasion fleet, but he had a bad feeling. During the fighting, he had captured a human prisoner. A regular soldier, wounded but alive, visited him in the medical bay. "Your people fought well," told the human. The soldier, a young man named, laughed. "We're just infantry, sir. Regular troops. You haven't seen anything yet." "What do you mean?" "I mean you fought the colonial defense forces. We're volunteers. We serve for a few years, learn to fight, then go home. But we have other soldiers, special teams, elite operators, people who train their entire lives just to fight." Felt cold. "How many of these elite soldiers do you have?" "I don't know, they're classified, but I saw some once during training. They moved like ghosts, made us look slow." "If they're so good, why didn't they fight us?" Smiled. "You weren't worth their time. They only deploy for the really dangerous missions." Left the medical bay in silence. He wrote a secret report to the Emperor warning him. The report was ignored. The invasion fleet prepared to leave for New Seoul. 600 warships, 500,000 elite Imperial Guard warriors, the biggest military operation in history. And waiting for them on New Seoul were 120 elite human operators who would change galactic history forever. The briefing room was quiet. 12 figures sat in the darkness, their faces hidden by shadows. These were not regular soldiers. These were operators from Shadow Team, the most elite unit in the human military. Captain stood at the front, looking at the holographic display. It showed 600 warships approaching New Seoul. 500,000 enemy soldiers were coming to destroy the human capital. "New Seoul has 2 million civilians," said calmly. "General Minu has 40,000 regular troops defending the planet. The enemy outnumbers us badly." One of the operators, a woman named, spoke up. "What's our mission?" "We're not defending," said. "We're hunting." Another operator leaned forward. 12 of us against 500,000. "No," replied. 12 of us against their command structure. We kill their leaders, destroy their coordination, break their will to fight. The regular troops can handle the rest." Sergeant, the team medic, checked her weapons. "When do we deploy?" "We already have," said. "3 of our teams are already on the flagship. They infiltrated 48 hours ago." High Magistrate of the Coalition watched from his observation ship. He had come to study how humans fought large battles. He had brought his best analysts. They all expected to see a desperate defense. "The humans only have 40,000 soldiers," one analyst said. "They have 500,000. This will be a massacre." Wasn't so sure. He had seen what human regular infantry could do, but his analysts were right. The numbers were impossible. The fleet entered orbit around New Sol. Emperor stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the planet below. He would personally lead this invasion. He would see humans kneel before him. "Begin landing operations," ordered. That's when the first ship exploded. The explosion came from inside the vessel. The command deck was destroyed instantly. The ship began spinning out of control, crashing into 2 other ships. 3 warships died in seconds. "What happened?" demanded. "Unknown, my Emperor. The ship just exploded." More explosions followed, one every few minutes. Each time, a command ship would suddenly lose power or explode or drift off course. The fleet was tearing itself apart and they didn't know why. Stood in a dark corridor inside the flagship. He had placed explosives on 12 critical systems. His 2 teammates, operators named, and had done the same on 2 other command ships. They had been hiding inside these ships for 2 days, moving through air ducts and maintenance tunnels. "Charges set," reported over the encrypted radio. "Copy," replied. "In 15 minutes, meet at the hangar." They had one more job to do, moved through the ship like a ghost. He wore a suit that bent light around him, making him nearly invisible. His footsteps made no sound. He reached the main server room and plugged in a device. In 30 seconds, he had complete access to the fleet's communication network. Every ship began receiving false orders. Some were told to hold position. Others were told to advance. Some were told to retreat. The fleet coordination fell apart. Ships collided with each other trying to follow contradictory orders. On the planet below, they began landing. 500,000 soldiers descended in massive transport ships. They expected fierce resistance. Instead, they found almost nothing. The human regular troops had pulled back to defensive positions around the cities. They spread out across the open terrain, setting up bases and supply lines. Everything was going according to plan. Then the real war began. Operator lay on a hill 4 kilometers from the nearest position. He looked through his scope at a general giving orders. The general was surrounded by guards. He was inside an armored vehicle. He thought he was safe. Adjusted for wind and distance, he slowed his breathing. He squeezed the trigger. 4.2 kilometers away, the bullet passed through the vehicle's viewing port and killed the general instantly. The guards never even heard the shot. Moved immediately. He was 300 meters away before they realized their general was dead. He would make 5 more shots that day, each one farther than the last. Each one perfect. Specialized in demolitions. She and her partner, an operator named, approached a massive supply depot. It held ammunition, fuel, and food for 50,000 soldiers. 300 guards protected it. They didn't try to fight the guards. They crawled through a drainage pipe that led under the depot. It took 4 hours of moving through filth and water. When they reached the center, they placed explosives throughout the underground structure. "Charges set," whispered, 20-minute timer. They crawled back out and were a kilometer away when the depot exploded. The blast was so large it created a mushroom cloud. 50,000 soldiers just lost all their supplies. Sergeant had the hardest job. 200 human civilians were trapped behind lines. The enemy had surrounded them, planning to use them as hostages. Took 6 operators with her to get them out. They moved at night, crossing 15 kilometers of enemy territory. They wore suits that masked their heat signatures. Every patrol they encountered died silently. Knives in the dark, no gunshots, no alarms. They reached the civilians at dawn. The guards never saw them coming. 8 guards died in 3 seconds. Teams secured the area and began moving the civilians back to safety. But they discovered what was happening. 800 soldiers rushed to stop them, had 6 operators and 200 frightened civilians. She could have retreated and saved her team. Instead, she set up a defensive position. "Get the civilians to safety," she told her team. "I'll slow them down." "We don't leave anyone behind," one operator said. "You're not leaving me. I'm buying time. Now move." Positioned herself in a narrow canyon. 800 on one side, 6 operators and 200 civilians escaping on the other. She had 4 guns, 20 grenades, and no intention of losing. The first squad entered the canyon, killed all 12 before they could raise their weapons. The second squad was more careful. She killed 8 and wounded the rest. The third squad called for heavy weapons. For 2 hours fought alone. She moved constantly, never staying in one place. She used the terrain, setting traps and ambushes. Her radio was silent. She didn't call for help. She just did her job. When ammunition ran low, she switched to a pistol. When that was empty, she used knives. When they broke, she used rocks and her bare hands. They kept coming. She kept killing them. Heard what was happening. He was supposed to be infiltrating another target. Instead, he diverted to help. He ran 8 kilometers in full gear, pushing his body beyond normal limits. He arrived to find wounded, surrounded by dead, still fighting. "Took you long enough," said, breathing hard. "Had to make an entrance," replied, shooting 3 who were trying to flank her. Together, they held the position until the civilians were safe. Then they disappeared into the mountains, leaving the confused and terrified. Back on observation ship, the analysts watched in disbelief. They were losing. Their fleet was in chaos. Their ground forces were being torn apart by enemies they couldn't see. "How many human soldiers are causing this damage?" an analyst asked. "Check the reports. Our sensors detect approximately 120 human soldiers conducting offensive operations. The rest are defending the cities." 120 against 500,000. "These are not ordinary soldiers," said quietly. "These are their elite warriors, their operators." On the flagship, Emperor received report after report. Generals dead, supply depots destroyed, communication systems failing. His soldiers were panicking. They reported shadows that killed without sound, humans who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "Send the Imperial Guard," ordered. "Send our best warriors to hunt these humans." War Master shook his head. "My Emperor, we are being hunted. Our soldiers are not dying in battle. They are being assassinated, sabotaged, terrorized. This is not a battle. This is an extermination." "Then what do you suggest?" roared. "Retreat before it's too late." Through against the wall. The Empire does not retreat. But in the darkness of New Seoul, in the corridors of his ships, in the minds of his soldiers, fear was spreading. The humans weren't just winning. They were teaching the galaxy a new lesson. Regular human infantry were dangerous soldiers, but elite human operators were something else entirely. They were evolution's answer to the question, what hunts the hunters? Sat on a hill overlooking the encampments. Fires burned where supply depots had been. Soldiers ran in confusion, chasing shadows. In 3 days, Shadow Team and the other elite units had killed or captured 40,000 soldiers. They had destroyed enough supplies to cripple the invasion. Called over the radio, "I found Emperor's flagship. You want to send him a message?" Smiled. "What did you have in mind?" "I'm standing outside his command room right now. I could leave him a note." "Do it." Moved silently through the flagship. She had already killed 20 guards to get here. She placed a small device on the Emperor's chair and vanished back into the ship's corridors. When returned to his command room, he found a message displayed on his chair. "You should have accepted peace." Captain, Human Special Operations. The Emperor stared at the message. Someone had been in his private room, on his flagship, surrounded by 10,000 guards, and they had just left a note and walked away. For the first time in his life, Emperor felt fear. War Master sat in his quarters, studying casualty reports. After 5 days of fighting, the numbers were impossible to believe. His forces had lost 78,000 soldiers. The human regular troops had lost maybe 2,000, but those numbers didn't tell the full story. The elite operators had killed 40,000 by themselves, 120 humans against 500,000, and they were winning. Pulled up the footage from security cameras. He watched an operator move through a ship. The human was alone, surrounded by enemies outnumbered by thousands, but the operator moved like smoke. Guards died without making sounds. Doors opened and closed with no one visible. Systems failed mysteriously. In one clip, a patrol of 20 soldiers walked down a corridor. An operator dropped from the ceiling behind them. In 7 seconds, all 20 were unconscious or dead. The operator disappeared before anyone could respond. "They're not soldiers," whispered to himself. "They're something else." On New Seoul, Sergeant moved through a medical tent, checking on wounded civilians she had rescued. Her own wounds were bandaged, but she refused to rest. An operator named approached her. "Want you back in the field. There's a command post 10 kilometers north. They're planning a major assault on the eastern cities." Stood up, wincing slightly. "How many guards?" "About 500. "How many of us?" "Just you and me." Smiled. "Sounds fair." They left an hour later. 2 humans moving to attack 500 soldiers. To the regular troops watching them leave, it seemed insane. To the operators, it was just another mission. Was having the best week of his career. He had made 37 confirmed kills, each one at extreme range. His longest shot was now 4.8 kilometers. They had started calling him the Ghost Sniper. They didn't know where he was. They didn't know how to stop him. He lay on a mountainside, watching a general through his scope. The general was surrounded by guards, inside a bunker, supposedly safe. Calculated wind speed, air pressure, and bullet drop. He fired. The bullet traveled for 6 seconds before entering the bunker through a small ventilation shaft. The general fell. The guards panicked, firing randomly. Was already moving to his next position. His spotter, an operator named, whispered into the radio. 38 confirmed. You're breaking records." "It's not about records," replied. "It's about making them afraid." And they were afraid. Their soldiers stopped trusting open ground. They stayed inside buildings and vehicles. They moved only at night, but even that didn't help. The human operators owned the night. Prepared her biggest operation yet. They had parked their entire fleet in orbit, creating a defensive screen. She studied the formation for 2 days, looking for weaknesses. Then she found one. 3 fuel ships sat at the center of the formation. They supplied all 600 warships. If those ships exploded, the whole fleet would be vulnerable. "I need to get onto those fuel ships," told over an encrypted channel. "How will you get up there?" asked. "I'll steal a shuttle." "That's impossible." "No, it's just very difficult." And 2 other operators and infiltrated a landing zone. They waited for a shuttle to land, then killed the crew silently. Put on a uniform she had stolen earlier. It didn't fit well, but in the dark it might work. They flew the shuttle up to the fuel ships. Traffic control contacted them. "Identify yourself," the controller said in the language. Spoken perfect. "Maintenance crew coming to repair a fuel leak." "You're not scheduled." "It's an emergency repair. Do you want the ship to explode?" There was a pause. "Proceed to docking bay 7. They landed on the first fuel ship. Walked off the shuttle wearing the uniform, carrying a toolbox. Inside the toolbox were explosives, and stayed with the shuttle, ready to escape. moved through the ship confidently. When guards stopped her, she complained about the fuel leak and angry. They let her pass. She placed charges on the fuel tanks, the engines, and the main reactor. Then she walked back to the shuttle. Done? Asked. First ship done, 2 more to go. They repeated the process on the second and third fuel ships. The entire operation took 4 hours. When they were finished, had placed charges that would destroy all 3 ships and cripple the fleet. But they were discovered while leaving. An officer noticed his uniform didn't match her assignment. He called security. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Time to go, said calmly. Piloted the shuttle while fired the shuttle's guns at pursuing fighters, armed the charges remotely. 3 fuel ships exploded simultaneously, creating a chain reaction. 15 nearby warships were destroyed instantly. Another 30 were damaged. The fleet scattered in panic. Half the ships fled to safe distance. The other half tried to maintain formation. The coordination was gone. Emperor screamed orders, but nobody was listening anymore. On the ground and reached the command post. They observed it from a distance, counting guards and noting patrol patterns. 500 guards for a command post, said. They're scared. Good, replied. Fear makes people sloppy. They waited until midnight. Then they attacked. Threw a grenade that released smoke, covering the area in thick fog. The guards couldn't see. She and moved through the smoke like they could see perfectly. They could. Their helmets showed them everything. Guards fired randomly, hitting each other. Moved behind them, taking out officers with precise shots. Destroyed their communication equipment. In 15 minutes, 100 guards were down. The remaining guards retreated inside the building and followed. They moved floor by floor, room by room. Every they encountered fell. Some died. Some were wounded and left alive. All of them were terrified. On the top floor, they found the commanders. 20 officers planning the assault on human cities, kicked in the door. The officers reached for weapons. Don't, said simply. The officers froze. They had heard stories about human operators. Now 2 stood in front of them, weapons ready. The officers surrendered. Tell your emperor, said in language, that if he attacks our cities, we will hunt every single one of you. We will find you in your ships, in your bases, in your homes. Nowhere will be safe. She took all their planning documents and left. Behind her, 500 guards were wounded, dead, or too scared to fight. 2 humans had done it alone. Captain received reports from all teams. The fleet was crippled. Their ground forces were collapsing. Their command structure was destroyed. In 1 week, elite operators had turned an invasion force into a frightened mob. But Emperor refused to surrender. He called all his remaining forces to his flagship. 100,000 soldiers would make a final assault on New Seoul's capital city. If he couldn't conquer humanity, he would at least destroy their government. General Minu contacted. The Emperor is planning a suicide attack. He has 100,000 soldiers ready to assault the capital. We'll stop him, replied. How? We can't evacuate 300,000 civilians in time. We won't evacuate, we'll end this. Gathered all available operators, 32 in total. He explained the mission simply. The Emperor is on his flagship with 10,000 guards. We're going to board that ship, fight through his guards, and capture him alive. One operator laughed. 32 of us against 10,000. It's not about numbers, said. It's about commitment. They're guards, we're operators, they do this for duty, we do this for life. Who do you think fights harder? The operators loaded onto 4 stealth shuttles. They approached the flagship from below, using the planet's shadow to hide their approach. Sensors never detected them. They cut through the ship's hull in the cargo bay. 32 operators entered a ship with 10,000 enemies. They split into 4 teams. Each team had a specific mission. This team went straight for the Emperor. The guards heard alarms but didn't understand what was happening. Intruders on the flagship, Impossible. But then operators appeared in corridors, moving like darkness. Guards died without warning. Whole sections of the ship went dark. The team moved toward the command deck. They encountered heavy resistance. 50 guards blocked a corridor, threw a grenade. In the confusion, his team rushed forward. The fight was brutal and fast. In 90 seconds, all 50 guards were down. They reached the command deck. Emperor sat on his throne, surrounded by his personal guard. 200 of the best warriors stood up when he saw. One human laughed. "You come to kill me alone." "I'm not alone," said, "and I'm not here to kill you." The other operators appeared from different entrances. 12 humans against 200 elite guards. The guards attacked. The operators were ready. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries. 12 humans fought 200 elite guards in close combat. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it ended, all 200 guards were unconscious or dead. All 12 operators were wounded but alive. Emperor stood alone on his command deck, surrounded by his fallen guards. Approached him, bleeding from multiple wounds but still standing. "This is captain of the human colonial defense forces," he said calmly. "You have one chance to surrender. Order your forces to stand down. Or we continue this, and by morning none of your soldiers will be alive." Looked at the human, smaller than him, wounded, outnumbered, yet standing victorious in the heart of his flagship. Hal whispered, "How did you defeat us?" "You trained to fight," replied. "We trained to win, there's a difference." Emperor surrendered. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Representatives from 47 species watched the holographic display showing the Battle of New Sol. They watched human operators board a flagship with 10,000 guards. They watched 12 humans defeat 200 elite warriors. They watched an emperor surrender. High Magistrate stood to address the council. 1 month ago, the Empire invaded human space with 500,000 soldiers. Today, that empire has surrendered unconditionally. The invasion force lost 300,000 soldiers. The humans lost 2,000. A representative from the species spoke up. "How is this possible? They were the strongest military power in this sector." "They were," agreed, "until they met humans." He displayed more footage. Human infantry fighting impossible odds, elite operators moving like shadows, medical teams saving wounded soldiers who should have died, coordination that seemed telepathic. "Humanity has been fighting for their entire history," explained. "Not fighting each other, fighting everything. Their planet tried to kill them. Diseases, predators, weather, natural disasters. They survived by becoming the best survivors in the galaxy." Another representative asked, "Should we fear them?" Thought carefully before answering. "We should respect them, and perhaps we should be grateful they prefer peace." On New Sol, Ambassador met with Emperor in a detention facility. The Emperor sat in a comfortable room, not a cell. He was defeated but not humiliated. That was the human way. "My war council wants me to demand harsh terms," said. "They want your empire broken into pieces. They want your military disbanded. Some want you executed." Stared at the floor. "Why don't you have the power?" "Because we're not conquerors," replied. "We fought because you attacked us. Now the fighting is done. We want peace, not revenge." She placed a document on the table. "These are our terms. Your empire will pay reparations for the damage caused. Your military will be reduced. You will respect our borders. In exchange, we will help you rebuild. We will establish trade. We will be neighbors, not enemies." Read the document in disbelief. "These terms are generous. Why?" "Because my people have learned something from thousands of years of war," said. "Defeated enemies who are treated with mercy often become allies. Defeated enemies who are humiliated become future threats. Which do you want to be?" Sign the treaty. Captain and Shadow team returned to Earth. They were met with ceremonies and medals. stood uncomfortably while politicians made speeches about his heroism. He didn't feel like a hero. He had just done his job. After the ceremony, he gathered with his team in a quiet bar. They drank and told stories about the mission, bragged about stealing the shuttle, argued that his 4.8-kilometer shot was the mission's highlight, reminded them she had held off 800 alone. "We make a good team," said, raising his glass. "The best," replied. They drank to fallen friends. 2 operators had died during the mission. Operators and both killed during the flagship assault. Their names would be added to a memorial wall that held thousands of names. Elite operators who had given everything. "Do you think the galaxy understands now?" asked. "About what we can do?" Some of them said, "But understanding is different from experiencing." They watched videos. They saw the results, but they didn't feel what it's like to be hunted by humans. They didn't wake up in the dark wondering if we're standing behind them. That's something you can't explain. You have to survive it. Across the galaxy, the message spread quickly. Humanity was not to be attacked. They were not a peaceful species that couldn't fight. They were a species that chose peace because they were too good at war. The coalition formally requested a military alliance with humanity, traveled to New Sol to sign the treaty personally. General Menu met with him in the war room. "We would be honored to serve alongside human forces," said. "Your infantry alone changed how we think about warfare." "Our infantry are excellent soldiers," Menu agreed. "But you should know, most of them are volunteers. They serve for a few years, then return to civilian life. They're teachers, farmers, engineers who learn to fight when needed." "And your elite operators?" asked carefully. Minu smiled. "Those are different. They choose this life permanently. From childhood, some humans know they want to be warriors. We train them. We give them the best equipment. We teach them to push beyond normal human limits." "How many do you have?" "That's classified, but I can tell you this: every species has soldiers. Some have good soldiers. A few have great soldiers. Humans have soldiers and we have operators. The soldiers fight battles, the operators win wars." "Understood. May I ask one more question? The operator who captured Emperor, Captain, where is he now?" "Back in training," Minu replied. "He says the mission showed him some weaknesses in his technique. He wants to improve." "He defeated 200 guards and captured an emperor. What weakness could he possibly have?" "That's what makes them operators. They're never satisfied, always improving, always preparing for the next fight." Lieutenant was promoted to major and given command of a new training facility. Her job was to teach the next generation of officers. On her first day, she addressed a class of 200 young soldiers. "Some of you think you're here to learn how to win battles," she said. "You're wrong. You're here to learn how to prevent battles. Every fight we win is a fight we'd rather not have. Every enemy we defeat is someone we'd prefer as a friend." A young soldier raised his hand. "But we're so good at fighting. Shouldn't we use that strength?" "We are using it," replied. "By having strength, we prevent wars. By being dangerous, we make others think twice about attacking. And when they do attack, we end it quickly. That's not aggression. That's responsibility." She pulled up footage of the New Sol battle. "Watch these operators. They could have killed everyone on that flagship. Instead, they captured the Emperor alive. They could have destroyed the Empire. Instead, they offered peace. That's the difference between warriors and conquerors. Warriors fight when necessary. Conquerors fight because they can." The soldiers watched the footage in silence. They saw what humans were capable of, and they saw how humans chose to use that capability. War Master, now imprisoned and awaiting trial, requested to speak with human historians. They came to his cell with recording equipment. "Why do you want to talk to us?" a historian named asked. "Because someone needs to tell the truth about humans," said, "before anyone else makes the mistake we did." He spoke for 3 hours. He described the defeat in detail. He explained every tactical mistake they made. He analyzed human strengths with professional respect. "We thought humans were like us," concluded. "A species that learned warfare out of necessity. We didn't understand that humans were born into war. Your planet is a death world. Your ancestors survived by being tougher, smarter, and more adaptable than everything trying to kill them." "So you think we're natural warriors?" asked. "No," said firmly. "I think you're natural survivors. War is just one tool you use to survive. And because you've been using that tool for millions of years, you're frighteningly good at it." He leaned forward. "But here's what your people need to remember. You're good at war, but you don't love war, the loved war. We celebrated it. You treat it as a necessary evil. That's your greatest strength. You fight when you must, but you always prefer peace." The interview was shared across the galaxy. It became required viewing in military academies. Species studying humans watched, warning. Some learned, some didn't. On Earth, at a military training facility, new recruits began their first day. Instructor, the soldier who had been wounded at Nu, addressed them. "Welcome to the Colonial Defense Forces," he said. "You're here to learn how to protect humanity. Some of you will serve a few years and go home. Some will make this your career. A very few will become operators." He pointed to a memorial wall covered in names. "These are humans who died protecting others. They were infantry, operators, medics, pilots. Some died in famous battles. Some died in classified missions nobody will ever know about. They all have one thing in common. They chose to stand between civilians and danger." A recruit asked, "Sir, is it true that operators are better than regular soldiers?" "Thought about it. Operators are more specialized, more trained. They do missions regular soldiers can't do, but better? No, different. I've fought beside operators. I've fought beside regular troops. I've fought beside civilians who picked up weapons to defend their homes. They all fought bravely. They all mattered." He smiled. "The galaxy thinks operators are what makes humans dangerous. They're wrong. What makes humans dangerous is that every single one of us, operator or civilian, will fight to protect what we love. That unity, that commitment, that's our real strength." The training began. Another generation of humans learning to fight, learning to protect, learning to hope for peace while preparing for war. Across the galaxy, new alliances formed. Species that once competed now cooperated. They shared their technology. They shared their resources. Humanity shared their tactical knowledge. And together, they built something new. A galactic community based not on domination but on mutual respect, protected by many species, led by none, united by choice. High magistrates stood on New Sol, watching human children play in a park. Nearby, their parents talked and laughed. These were the same people who had defeated the same species whose operators had boarded a flagship against impossible odds. "You look confused," Ambassador said, joining him. "I am," admitted. "I've seen what humans can do in war, but here, watching them in peace, they're just people, families, children playing." "That's the point," said. "We fight so we can have this, the peace, the normal life, the boring afternoons in the park. Every human soldier, from the recruit to the most elite operator, they all fight for the same thing, to protect moments like this. And if someone threatens these moments again—" His expression hardened. "Then they'll learn what we learned long ago. Peace is worth fighting for. Family is worth dying for. And humans are very, very good at both." In orbit above New Sol, a memorial station floated silently. Inside were the names of every human who died in the war. 2,000 regular soldiers, 2 elite operators. Each name was carved in stone, lit by eternal flames. Captain visited the memorial before returning to training. He stood before the names of, and his fallen teammates. "We won," he told them quietly. "The Emperor surrendered. The war is over. You didn't die for nothing." He saluted and turned to leave. Behind him, the names glowed in the darkness, reminders of the cost of peace, reminders of why humans fought so hard to protect what they loved. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not conquerors, they were not aggressive, they were not looking for war. But if war came to them, they would end it, quickly, decisively, completely. That was the new galactic order, peace protected by strength, cooperation built on respect, and humans standing ready to defend what they had built. Not as conquerors, as guardians. That was their choice. That was their nature. And that was why, when the galaxy thought humanity's infantry was terrifying, they were completely unprepared for what elite operators could do. Because humans didn't just train soldiers, they trained protectors, and there was nothing more dangerous than someone fighting to protect what they loved.